How's it going, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome to a brand new episode of One Deck One Month. We're in episode 3 with Drytron. If you guys haven't seen last week's episode, I'll leave a link to it up in the top right for you guys to check out so you can get all caught up. But, just a quick refresher. We ended up going 3-1 last Saturday, and the previous Saturday before that, we ended up going 2-2. So we made some improvement from week 1, but we're still not seeing that 4-0 finish that we need to see. It'd be a first for this series if we can do that, and I definitely think we're playing the right deck to do it 100%. But I went to locals this past Tuesday, and we'll talk about how that went in just a moment. But as I mentioned at the end of the last episode, how I said I was going to be moving away from the pre-prep build, and even now as it's Friday when I'm recording this, I'm still not on that build. And to be totally honest, I don't miss it. I may not have given the best explanation at the end of the last episode, so I'll just go ahead and rephrase why I'm not running it. In order to get the most value out of seeing pre-prep plus prep, you need to see those two cards together plus an alpha or a zeta. Otherwise, you only get so far on just prep and pre-prep. It's not seeing alpha zeta. Alpha zeta is way better to see than pre-prep in my opinion. Because you already play, especially now that I'm playing multiple Evas, orange lights are going to be your protection midway through your combo, and making sure you're adding the right cards at certain times so you can guarantee another negate for another interruption, which is important because there was an interaction that happened on Tuesday. We'll talk about that. We'll get there, don't worry, we'll get to that Tuesday tournament report, but it's just too inconsistent, right? And it makes the deck less consistent because I have to play less Drytron names. So why bank on seeing a really powerful opening only sometimes when I could just overall increase the consistency of the deck of just seeing any 2 Drytrons or 3 Drytrons, and that happens more often, and it still ends me on my full combo, which is enough anyways, right? We don't need to try to open this super powerful combo that we don't open all the time. So we're just moving off of it. We're on Ultimatus, and I'm much better off for it. The deck is way more consistent. And now getting to the Tuesday locals, I ended up going 3-1. It was so close to a 4-0, man. I was, if it was a 4-0, it would have been a little bittersweet because I wasn't doing any recording. I don't usually record on Tuesdays because I like to be able to have locals that I can just kind of, not bring a bunch of gear to and just focus and, kind of enjoy it like a normal person, right? But round 1, I ended up playing against, what did I end up playing against? Oh, it was Chaos Lightsworn, right? Played against Chaos Lightsworn, won that 2-0. Game 2 was a little weird because he dropped Light and Darkness Dragon on me. I Dark Rulered it, and then I took it with Natasha, and it still had 2100 or 2400 attack or something. However much attack, or 2300 if it's used only 1 negate by dropping itself by 5. And then I basically negated the rest of his stuff with his own Light and Darkness Dragon and proceeded to go for a game. And then round 2, I ended up playing against Dino, Shadal, very quick 2-0 smack. Round 3, ended up playing against Live Twin Eldritch. We took the L against that deck on Saturday, the previous Saturday, but we are able to be victorious this time around. We did win the die roll. That plays a big role in it, to be totally honest. Won game 1, lost game 2. Game 3, it came down to me having a Ghost Spell and Haunted Mansion for his Call by the Grave on my Eva, and if I would not have had it, I would have lost that game probably, or not have won it that turn, because, I needed that Eva to go through to get 2 extra fairies to my hand for my Ultimatus. So we won that, and then round 4, I played against VW, the same virtual world player that had just had his first place profile uploaded last week, my man Johnny. Game 1, I was midway through my combo. I had an orange light in hand, had an extra Ben 10 search, and I added another orange light. And it was good because he had a Nibiru and I was able to negate it, but he later had another interruption. And I should have added Ava. My opponent even told me after our match, he said, if you would have added Ava in game 1, I think you would have took the match. So I think the reason I didn't go 4-0 was because I literally didn't add Ava at the time I was supposed to add it. Very small and niche interaction, and I just didn't see it, and we lost because of it. Sometimes that's Yu-Gi-Oh! And then game 2, he hit us with Droll and Lockbird, and I don't know how many people are on this card, but Chaos Ruler is so good. I proceeded to get a Gamma on board or a Zeta or something. I think he drolled me on resolution of that after, because I went Zeta Ben 10, Zeta add Meteonis. I was try to go Ben 10, he just goes Droll, I can't add. A normal Diviner dump Natasha, Synchro for Chaos Ruler, that finds me a Gamma and some other really good cards, and I'm able to get into Mu Beta, and then I'm able to get into Beatrice dump, and then on his turn I can get access to an Orange Light Negate, by using an Eva, and like he scooped right there. His hand was not that great. We were able to actually win a game through Droll. Game 3, he ended up going first, and like he just had everything. He had Ash, Judgment, he had Shen. Like I just didn't have enough cards to play through it, and I drew my opening 6, no hand traps, no side deck cards, and then I started with Delta, drew into a Droll and Lock. And you know, it is what it is, because he started with Desires and everything, and the Droll and Lock probably would have sealed the game, but we didn't see it in time. Can't really side Phantasme against that match either, because, right, they don't go into links ever. And I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Next, we're going to actually go ahead and talk about the deck list that I played in that event, and why I like it so much. There's even a little bit of spice in there that the Discord subfam already knows about, and it's this guy right here, yeah. Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon. I'm not sure who came up with this idea originally for this deck, but my friend Adam, shoutouts to you, gave me the idea leading up to this locals. I was a little skeptical. I'm like, why would I cut this for Draconids? Draconids is so good, but sometimes a big boss monster like Chaos Max is just better because it puts your opponent on a clock. Sometimes I find it, if your opponent can play through your 3 to 4 interruptions with your Ultimatus or whatever else you have, and they can set up a board, especially in some control decks, having a card like Chaos Max just closes those games so quickly. Does double piercing damage, was huge against the Eldritch matchup, and is actually one of the only reasons I won, so I was able to pierce through 24 through his Golden Lord, and the rest of my monsters swung in for a game. And not to mention, it has better protection than Draconids does, right? It has can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects, period, whereas Draconids just can't be targeted by monster effects. So it's already just a better card in my opinion, and it just looks awesome. So we're on Chaos Max, and I love it. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. Let's go ahead and take a look at the list. Okay, guys, so let's go over our deck list really quick here. As you can see, it is a clean and cut 40 card list, and here are those ashes in the main deck. Mainly because I do want to play more going second cards. I had a couple of friends tell me that I probably should try and play more in this specific deck, and I do agree. We're going to go with Ash for the time being, although I may experiment with Phantasme or Infinite Impermanence, or maybe even Ghost Spell. We do have quite a few options, but as you can see, everything else is pretty standard on the 11 Drytron names, 3 Gammas, and the 2 Deltas. We have our double Ava, which I'm so happy to be playing again. I think this is a card that'll probably get hit on the upcoming list, if I'm being totally honest, but that's a story for a different video. And we have our Rituals, the beautiful Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon that I love so much. Talents in the main, of course, and then everything else down here is pretty much standard, except for maybe the double Meteonis, which I've grown so fond of. And then the extra deck here, everything also looking pretty standard. Got the Chaos Ruler in the extra deck. This card has saved my butt so many times, especially trying to play through Droll or in those hands where you don't see enough names. And then this is that side deck we are going with: Phantasmes, Bells, Drolls, Dark Rulers, and the twins alongside the red reboot. So yeah, this is the list that we'll be taking, and I'm really happy with it. It's really solid. So yeah, I figured I'd update you guys on what the deck list looks like before we head any further into the episode. So yeah, I think for now the side deck honestly looks pretty good. Just trying to think offhand if there's anything else I was thinking about siding. I guess maybe it would be Nibiru. But like for our local meta, I think the side deck is really good. I don't think I'm going to change it for tonight. I don't think I've had really any complaints about the side. The amount of back row removal is like the only thing that's a little sketchy, right? Because we have the double twin and the red reboot, and that's what we're lacking in terms of back row, or that's all we have in back row removal. But like the only other thing I could say I would be cutting would be Blizzard. Which is a card that, like, in my head right now I think is good, because there are a few moments where the card has been really strong, but it hasn't been like, oh my god, this card is insane. I know I gassed it up a little bit in the last episode, but this card, like, I might be a little biased towards it because it won me that game against Goki Codebreaker, and I don't like deck building with biases. I do it sometimes. I mean, everybody does from now and then. It's very hard to like deck build without bias. You have to be really emotionless almost when you're deck building, and be very, very open-ended to a lot of other ideas and other card choices. One card that has come up specifically in my mind is Silent Graveyard, because what's better than ending with your Ultimatus board when you're ending with your Ultimatus board plus basically a quick play Dweller. So that's kind of come up too, because think about it in this, like, the situation is like, well, I guess the role of this is to be having like a going first card, because right now I don't side any going first cards other than this, and I want to have a side deck cards in when I go first, because there are cards in the game that we lose to when we go first, and those are Dark Ruler, Droplets, and mainly just those two cards, and then everything else is going to be hand traps that are on our turn, and we have to try to play around those as best as we possibly can, and we have ways to do that, right? But we're not always going to have those ways. Sometimes we're going to get to our final board and they're going to slap the Dark Ruler on us, and we're going to really hope that we have enough fairies and orange lights in hand. So if we're playing against, per se, the Mirror, or we're playing against Eldritch, or any other deck that, like Tri Brigade, for example, if we can have something in our back row that they can't touch, because let's be honest, they're not siding back row hate against Drytron, and if they are, it's because they know what my list looks like in advance. But I think Silent Graveyard is a great candidate. I even thought about Anti-Spell, because like if you flip Anti-Spell in the draw phase, like, they have to have something. But then obviously the problem becomes, like, if it isn't game, you just locked yourself out of ritual summoning, which is kind of a big no-no. Might be a little bit on the extreme end, but like, I don't want to rule any cards out completely. And then the main deck, the only other thing that's going to be new tonight is the 3 Ash in the main, and I think that's in place of like the, what was it? Like the 3rd prep, and then like 2 other cards that I can't remember what they were. They used to be Dark Rulers, but I think Ash is a little bit better going first or going second. So we're going to try it out. Triple Tactics Talents is in the main, even though I played Prosperity on Tuesday. That wasn't like a choice of mine that I wanted to make. I was just going to let my brother borrow them because I figured as a Tuesday locals, it doesn't matter so much. It's not the Saturday locals, so I'm like, I'll let him borrow them. We'll play the Prosperity. Prosperity was good. Like it always is. And I also did another thing with the Prosperity. I banished 3 a lot. And for anybody that's on Drytron right now, if you're playing Prosperity, like, you don't always need to banish 6. Like, I would only ever banish 6, like, if you desperately needed to see another Drytron. Every hand that I saw the pot with, like, I pretty much already had combo to begin with, so I was just trying to get one extra little bonus extender, or something to help me be more immune to hand traps. And I guess the biggest thing to say no to Prosperity, and even pre-prep, is like, those cards lose really, really hard to draw, unless you have the Diviner package, or Diviner with the Chaos Ruler package. Like, those are the cards that are gonna help you play through Droll. But I mean, because not everybody's on those cards. But like, if your pre-prep resolves and you get Drolled, like, you're kind of screwed. You have to have Ben 10 in hand already to be able to do something, and even then, like, it doesn't matter because you can't search off Ben 10. And Prosperity is a very, very easy way to get Droll unlocked. So I think right now the build as is the most like prone, or most proof against like Droll unlock, which is the hand trap that hurts the most. Then next I would say Nibiru, and then like Imperm and Valor for hitting Mu Beta, or even Ghost Mourner too. That card can hit the Mu Beta as well. But yeah, I wanted to update you guys real quick on the deck. I wanted to talk about the list specifically because I haven't done that much in this series, and I wanted to take more time to talk about theory and my ideas going forward. So specifically tonight, we're testing talents back in the main, and the side deck as well, and really just the double Medionis and the Chaos Max Dragon. And just being more careful with like my light fairy searches off of Ben 10, trying to get Orange Light and Ava in hand, before I end my turn. And hopefully before there's a crucial choke point in my combo, I can get those cards in hand, negate an Nibiru, negate an Ash, whatever. And then we have another Ava on the opponent's turn. And if we have to use the Ava on our turn, we just get Diviner and Orange, and then we get another Diviner and Orange on our opponent's turn, and we just keep comboing, and we hopefully win the game from there, and hopefully they don't have the blowout cards they need to have. Now I'm going to my friend's house. We're going to test for a little while. I don't know if I'm going to bring my camera there yet, so either update you guys while I'm there or after the fact. All right, guys, welcome to Saturday. It is just about a quarter after 5 o'clock right now. Going to be leaving very soon, and I was just doing sort of some pre-tournament checks and everything, getting my deck and my brother's deck ready because he's actually going to be piloting Earth Machine at his second locals back in about 4 years. Last time he played in for Noble, did all right with it, but he thinks it's a little too fragile for his playstyle, so he's switching over to the Earth Machine deck. So should be an interesting experience watching him play that in a tournament. But I was just going over my side deck because I remembered I don't have Dark Ruler in my main or side at the moment, and I want to try to figure out how to put it back into the side because I am on Ash in the main deck because I think last time I was maining Dark Ruler, but I have since changed it out for Ash because it's a little more versatile going first or second than the Dark Ruler. And to be totally honest, I'm looking at siding out the Drolls because I don't think there's very much Drytron in my goals. I think I might be the only one outside of another player. And the only other card that I could possibly think of taking out instead of the Drolls would be the Blizzards. And the only reason I don't like taking out Blizzard is because that leaves me with no going first cards in the side deck at least. I mean, you could argue I could side maybe Droll going first, just in case I get stopped. I have a powerful hand trap. You could argue Bell I could side going first too to hit DD Crows and Cycle Readers. And the only other cards I have left are Twin and Red Reboot, so I'm left with a pretty tough decision here. I actually never got to go test at my friend's house last night just because it was getting too late because he couldn't hang out till a late point, and I just decided I would stay here and work on the new episode of One Deck One Month, by the way, which I actually just uploaded. So if you guys haven't seen the previous episode, go check it out right now 100%. But so I know this is the best time to be making these decisions is right before the tournament. But right now it's either looking like I take out Droll or maybe I cut Droll to 2, cut Bell to 2, and just play and cut like Blizzard to 2. And then play the 3 Dark Ruler because we also have Phantasmic going second as well. That could help us draw into those other cards that we might be only playing 2 copies of. So I've made the decision on what to take out of the side. It was a little tough, but I think I'm going to be getting rid of the Blizzards in place of the Dark Rulers. Yes, Blizzard was good in theory to stop Dark Rulers and Droplets hitting our board because that's the only thing our board really loses to if it's fully established. But in theory, if we pull everything off correctly, we'll have plenty of orange lights in hand. Plus other hand traps we may have sided in, so we can play out of our hand at that point, and it's on them to break our board completely. And if we have Mirage Light up, you know, we get cards back in the process. So I think I'm just going to take Blizzard out for now. It's a card I do want to experiment with playing more in the future. Like, I'll probably try to find a way to fit it back into the side, but right now, with the limited time that I have, I think I'm just going to cut him for Dark Ruler, and we'll just play it safe. So I guess with all that being out of the way, I will see you guys at Locals. Alright guys, we are here at Locals. It is 6:05. We're going to go in, grab the cards we need to borrow, and get all set up to film some feature matches. Alright, so round 1 just finished. We ended up playing against my friend Matt, who is on Shadal Invoke Dogmatica. We did win the die roll, so that definitely helped us have an upper hand in that match because Winda will most likely end our turn every time. Game 2, I tried my best to play through the Droll, as you saw. Take Alpha. On Resolution. Droll and Resolution. It would have been really nice to have been able to get the Natasha engrave if I had access to another Cyber Angel, so I could have snatched, dealed something, and maybe made a Boral Sword and tried to snuck in for game, but he still did have the punishment set, so I probably overextended. I probably should just left with the Chaos Ruler, got him for some damage and passed, but the rest of his hand was just really, really strong, and we were definitely losing that. And then game 3, full combo yet again. Mirage Light. Mirage Light side effect? Ben 10 and Medionis.
That's perfect, buddy. Got me. You're good.
I'm so good.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
like.
drew DD curve turn, but I was like, there's no point of even using it. So
Yeah. GG, man. So the build is definitely working really well. The combos feel really good. And no Chaos Max round 1, but we may need it round 2. So I'll update you guys after round 2 or 3. Alright everybody, welcome to round 2 where I played against my good friend Colin, and by the way, this is a feature match that has been uploaded on the channel if you guys want to see that, but we ended up playing against Tri-Brigade, and I did win the die roll, and obviously I did choose to go first, where my main opening here was with Zeta, tributing Delta. I believe I also had Triple Tactics Talents in hand, and a Diviner. So a pretty solid opening, but let's fast forward to the first point of contention from my opponent. So after I resolve the Zeta, my next move is to go for Diviner to go ahead and try to grab Ben 10 from the deck, but unfortunately my opponent does have an Imperm on my Diviner, which kind of double sucks, mainly because I cannot use my talents, and I'm not going to get access to Ben 10 to tribute off for my Delta. So instead I'm forced to tribute my Zeta for my Delta, and I believe my opponent has an Ash for it there as well, which really hurts. But luckily, I did have talents to follow that up. Now I had to make a very split decision here. It was either to take a look at his hand or draw into 2 more cards, and at the time being, drawing 2 cards made more sense because it almost seems as though ripping a card out of the opponent's hand, at least on Tri-Brigade, is a little lackluster because of how many starters and extenders the deck has. I was able to draw into Eva Ben 10, which could come in clutch if I'm given another turn, because I can essentially restart my engine again with Delta and Zeta, but unfortunately after that I don't have any other plays, so I have to pass. Now, my opponent is obviously able to clear my board with relative ease. All I had was a Diviner and no hand traps to work with. He's able to go into Bearbrum, uses the Daruma to get in a little extra damage, and he's able to top that all off with a copy of Appaloosa on board with 3 negates and, of course, a Search of Revolt. So this is the part of the game where the odds of me winning this game slip so far out of my favor. I top deck, I believe, an Alpha here, which seems, really strong. I think I have Medionis, Ava, Ben 10, Alpha, and I believe a Diviner in hand. So, I have, a pretty good hand, but, a good hand can only get me so far through an Appaloosa, especially if I don't have something like Talons or Imperm or a well-timed Orange Light to be able to play through it. So I do start with the Diviner. I do attempt Diviner effect, and as expected, he burns the first interruption there with Appaloosa. I'm like, all right, so off to a good start. I was expecting that. I have Alpha Ben 10, so I'm trying my hardest to bait all these negations out as I can, to save Alpha Ben 10 for the last possible play. Now he does actually let me use Delta here, which is a little surprising. So I do net myself 1 draw by tributing Alpha to the grave. I believe it drew me into Nova, which is a really strong draw here, especially considering, I can try to easily out this Appaloosa in the battle phase. So in order to force another negate, I decided to link into Nightmare Phoenix, and I was feeling really strong about this line because not only is the Phoenix, threatening the back row, but it's also threatening to net me a draw. And it's also threatening his Appaloosa in the battle phase because Phoenix is obviously at 19. And it gives me a discard outlet for my Ava, which I can use, if he lets it go through, to go ahead and search Diviner and Orange, which would give me a lot more leverage in my turn here. Now, unfortunately, I can't chain block my Ava with the Phoenix here. So he negates the Phoenix with the Appo, and then obviously proceeds to negate the Eva on a new chain. I do forget to banish for cost here. That's my bad. something I just forgot in the heat of the moment. But regardless, I've completely exhausted his Appaloosa of all of its negates at this point, and I'm feeling really good about that, knowing that I have a live Alpha and a live Zeta engrave with a Ben 10 in hand. Now it seems like there's no way I could possibly lose this turn, but you have to keep in mind he still has Revolt live with a chain blockable non-target banish, which is going to hurt quite a bit. So my next move is to activate Alpha. I'm not entirely sure why I did this, especially the card I decided to summon, which ended up being Gamma, which is a great extender in the grave, and it's no surprise to see my opponent instantly activate the Revolt on summon, because he can just easily clear this awesome extender that I put on field for him to banish. Now, I don't really know if there was another way to get around this. Maybe the Nova was good because it forces the Revolt. Otherwise, I could link into Nightmare Unicorn and try to spin the Revolt back to the deck and force it there. So I guess maybe in that sense it was correct, but ultimately I do lose my Gamma in the process, which hurts quite a bit. Now, even at this point, you know, I still have Alpha Zeta engrave with a Ben 10 in hand, so we aren't completely out of options just yet. So from here, I believe my next play is to attempt to use Alpha, tributing Ben 10, and obviously my opponent does have the Ash, and he chooses to negate the Alpha, but I still get the Ben 10 search, and that allows me to go for a copy of Natasha. I use Zeta to tribute the Natasha to add another Meteonis, and then I go ahead and use the Meteonis to tribute off Zeta to bring out Natasha. Natasha will give me a little bit of life points back. That allows me to go into Unicorn, which I don't use its effect here because I can't afford the discard. So what I do next is I use the Natasha engrave, banishing my Ben 10 to take control of his Shurig and use it to gain another 1500. And then I proceed into the battle phase to get in a total of 5200 damage. Now, one thing that somebody pointed out in my comments on this particular feature match when it went up is that I actually had game here if I would have been playing Access Code Talker. Now, unfortunately, I don't own Access Code. I was playing Borosword at the time, so like it wasn't really technically an option. Yes, I can borrow it from a friend, and I may do that going forward into the 4th week, because I think it's in a situation like this especially illustrates how much better Access Code would be. 5300 from the Access Code and then 3k from Shurig allows me to OTK through 3 Appaloosa negates, Revolt, and an Ash, which sounds absolutely crazy. But just not having access to that very specific extra deck card cost me this game, because next turn my opponent rips a 1-for-1 and is just able to access code me and OTK. So let's go ahead and take a look at game 2. So obviously I decide to go ahead and get things started here in game 2. I believe my opening hand was Bell, Nova, Meteonis, Diviner, and Gamma, at least from what I can see here. So I think I start with the Diviner, and you know, as expected, it's going to get negated with Imperm, the absolute best hand trap to hit it with, because it's not going to trigger Talent. So from there, I follow that up with the Drytron Nova, and that goes ahead and summons me a copy of Alpha from the deck. I link Alpha into Link Karibo so I can use it in the grave, and I tribute off Gamma to summon Alpha, which does go through. Alpha searches me Ben 10, and from here, I'm like, you know, I could just, you know, use the Gamma to tribute off the Ben 10 and just go into Mu Beta there. And honestly, looking back, that seems like the safer play, but I was just kind of caught up in getting the full use of Gamma, even though I technically didn't need to. So I actually activate Meteonis to tribute off the Alpha, summon the Ben 10 from my hand, then use Gamma to tribute off the Ben 10 to bring back Alpha. And, you know, in hindsight, that is just asking to play into Nibiru. So 100% should have just used Gamma Engrave, tribute off the Ben 10, and save the Meteonis for later on. So that was definitely a misplay there. But luckily for me, I don't get punished here, right? Never punished. Definitely shouldn't have done this, like, looking back 100%. But the Gamma resolves, and so does the Ben 10, adding me Ida 10. I go ahead and add back the Meteonis. And then from there, I go ahead and overlay into Mu Beta. Mu Beta dumps a Delta here. And then I go ahead and activate Meteonis, detaching from Mubeta to go ahead and ritual summon out a copy of Ida 10, and Ida 10 adds back the Meteonis on summon. From here, I could have gone, bring out Ben 10 and then tribute for Delta and get a draw, but doing that made it so I wouldn't get access to Meteonis since I didn't have Zeta because I already used the add back effect. So I decided to go for the Ida 10. That'll give me the ritual spell back to hand to try to extend with later. And I actually synchro into Chaos Ruler, which mills me into Ultimateness, Nova, Alpha, Ash, and Natasha. I was really hoping to dig for more Drytrons here. I didn't find any, but it does get me to Ultimateness Engrave, which is really good. Something I don't need to worry about searching later on. Kind of saves me a Ben 10 search, if you will, already having the card engraved. So I take Natasha, add that to the hand, then I go ahead and use Meteonis to bring out Ben 10, and then from here I use Delta, attributing Ben 10 to reveal and draw, and then I go ahead and get a search of Eva, and then I link into the IP Masquerena and pass. So as it stands, I have access to Orange Light right now with IP Masquerena on board and Battle Phase Protection. So I technically have 2 monster negates plus a spin from Unicorn, and if my Chaos Ruler gets cleared, I have Dark Monsters engraved in the form of IP or Link Rebo to bring that back to put extra pressure on. My opponent starts with Prosperity, which is fine. He then uses Fractal, dumps all the way to Nerval, which of course I do negate the Nerval. Ava resolves, adding me another Orange and Diviner. And then my opponent goes ahead and normals Kit, which on summon I go right for Unicorn to spin that back, let him burn the normal summon. Not even gonna let him use the effect. I'm just gonna put it right back into his deck on summon. And my opponent doesn't have any other plays past that, so he just sets one and passes. I normal Diviner. That sends Herald the Arclight to add Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon because I want to send the message to my opponent like I'm gonna go for the OTK here. You better have something to stop it. So I go ahead and use Gamma Engrave, tributing off the Chaos Max, and go for the Mubeta. Mubeta sends a copy of Zeta, I think the only name I didn't have access to at this point. And then from here, I should have just brought Chaos Ruler out because I had game there. I didn't even need to do anything else, especially since this is my 1, 2, 3, my 3rd summon. Chaos Ruler would have been the 4th. And with all the monsters that I had on the field at that point, that would have been exact game. But I think as soon as I summon the Mubeta, my opponent just sees the writing on the wall and scoops before I can even do anything else. So we recovered here a little bit, not in the most optimal way, but we take game 2 and we head into game 3. So for a little context, I don't think we actually had that much time in game 3. I think we maybe had a total of 8 to 6 minutes, somewhere in that range. And as you might expect, my opponent does opt to go first. My opening hand was Natasha, Belle, Nova, Zeta, and Alpha. So a really great opening hand. I only wish I would have had something like Contact C in the opener. That would have been really, really strong, but unfortunately I don't open up any going second cards, and my opponent starts with none other than Rescue Cat, which brings out Karas and Kit. He links both of those into Farragut. Kit dumps Nerval, and the Nerval adds a copy of Karas. So he basically just goes through his standard combo. He actually used, I think, Kit to link into a Shurig, which is super heads up. Because that's going to get him access to search DD Crow, and he's still going to be able to get to his Appaloosa with 2 negates by linking Bearbrum and Farragut. So he made the absolute pitch perfect play on his turn 1. Not only did he get access to Revolt and Appaloosa, but he also searched DD Crow during his turn. And boy, was I happy I had a copy of Ghost Belt in my opening hand. So, he speedily finished up his combo. And then on my turn, I think I draw an Ida 10 or something, not the best draw. So from here, I make a huge error, right? To be honest, I was playing a bit, rushed because, time is counting down, and I don't want to waste a bunch of time thinking when I should probably be playing. So my first instinct here is to activate Nova. Now, to be totally honest, I had more time than my brain was telling me I did. I should have just slowed it down and took a little more time to think, because in reality, I did have enough time to think this through. But, I don't know how much it ultimately would have mattered, because not only did my opponent set one back row, he set a second one, which also kind of was a little concerning. So I start with the Nova, and I'm like, I'll just go Nova, summon out a Drytron, force out the Appaloosa in the battle phase, and then when he goes to Revolt, I'll just Bell the Revolt. But I completely overlooked the fact that he had an Appaloosa on his field that would just be able to negate my Bell. So, yeah, that's really unfortunate. And to make things worse, my opponent actually forgot to shotgun his anti-spell, so my Nova was actually able to slip through. So not only do I have to worry about DD Crow Appaloosa Revolt, I've got to worry about an anti-spell too. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's going to make things much more difficult. So I go to the battle phase, my main plan in my head for the time being, he goes ahead and uses Revolt. I'm like, Bell, and he uses Appaloosa to negate like nothing ever happened. He goes all the way up into Shurig, and Shurig, of course, is going to banish my Gamma. And like at this point, things are looking really rough. I go Zeta, Tribute Alpha, he negates, and then I go Alpha, Tribute Ida 10, and he has the DD Crow. And like, I had Natasha in hand as my last card. I literally don't think there's anything else I could have done. I think this is one of those instances in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where, my opponent needed to have it, and he had it, and therefore he won. And there's not much I can do. My opening hand was what it was, and unfortunately we take a round 2 loss, and we get gate kept yet again from that 4-0 finish, man. But if there was going to be one match I was going to lose, it was definitely this one, and it was a really good match regardless, so I'm not even that upset about it. So yeah, let's continue on to see how the rest of our tournament goes. Okay, so here we are in round 3, and surprise, surprise, we are playing against another Tri-Brigade deck, but this time around it is not pure Tri-Brigade, it is actually Tri-Brigade Dogmatica, and I don't think I've ever played against this variant before. It's either always been the pure variant or the Zoo variant. But either way, the all-important dice roll plays out, and I ended up winning it. And I do, of course, get to go first, where I start with Emergency into Alpha, Alpha Pitch, Zeta, add Ben 10. And we're pretty much off to the races, except my Diviner is met with that pesky Imperm yet again. So, we still follow up into Mu Beta. Mu Beta sends the Gamma, and, we bring out Ben 10. And tribute the Ben 10 for Gamma, and we're on our way into our normal combo. It's not as powerful because the Diviner didn't go through, but it's not ultimately such a big deal. I'm actually forced to make a Chaos Ruler with the Ida 10 and the Diviner, which is something I've been doing a lot more lately, especially to try to dig into more Drytron names and things like that. Which does help because I actually do hit an Eva off of the Chaos Ruler, because I know at this point I'm definitely not getting into my full board, so I just end up making the Mirage Light with double Orange Light in hand, 2 live Orange Lights. My opponent starts with the Imperm, hits the Mirage Light, not a huge deal. Normal's kit links for Almirage, dumps Nerval. I negate the Nerval with Orange Light. He then specs an Ecclesia after he tankies, and he goes ahead and uses the Ecclesia, and I negate it. And then from there, he sets one and passes, where I start off with the Alpha Delta, get into Chaos Max Dragon, Nova out a Gamma, and I believe I go into Chaos Max by ritualing off 2. And on the summon, he goes ahead and banishes it with Shurig, which is not a big deal. He kind of has to banish that card, or else it's going to punch in for a lot of damage. But then I have Talents just to steal his monster and go for a game. So we take game 1 rather quickly, and we head into game 2. So in game 2, obviously my opponent decides to go first, and he opens pretty good, but I do open, a decent amount of going second cards. My opponent starts with the Fractal to dump Kit, to dump Nerval. He goes Nerval effect to add I Ash. He normal summons Nerval to banish 2. To link summon, and I negate that with an Orange Light, pitching a Natasha, and then he still has a Desires for a follow-up, and he's actually not able to do anything else past that, so I start my turn with the Cyber Emergency to add Alpha. here I am thinking I'm in the clear, but of course on resolution of emergency. For the second time today, my opponent has a Droll and Lockbird, which of course is no surprise here. So my next play is to basically just get into Mubeta Fafnir, and I think I dump a Zeta. I was thinking about Medionis, but I dump Zeta. And then I just go into the battle phase with the Mubeta, make Downard, and then I make Zeus. And on my opponent's turn, he starts with Tanky, and then he gets to a point where he has just a Nerval on his field. And I really took a moment to think here if I wanted to Zeus here or not. I was like, maybe I should wait for him to link summon first then to Zeus, but I completely overlooked the double Dragon Lords existing. So he actually links out double Dragon Lords, and then I chain to the summon of it. And of course he chains Dragon Lords to bounce it back, and or he activates Dragon Lords and then I chain. So he basically just clears my Zeus, and I don't get the second use out of it, which is really unfortunate because my opponent follows up with Karas and then basically gets into his full combo. Farigit, Bearbrum, Appaloosa for 3 with the set Revolt, and once the Appaloosa comes out, I don't have a way to out it, so we just quickly head into a game 3. And of course in game 3, who would have guessed I go first, and I actually start with Diviner. And it goes through, surprisingly. No Imperm, no Ash. I send Herald, which adds Ben 10. And then I use Zeta to tribute Ben 10 to add Medionis and Ida 10. And we basically go through our full combo. Not really much to say. It ends up being an extremely strong version of the combo because I end my turn with a set Talents and 6 Fairies in hand. So I literally have a negate for every single card in my opponent's hand. I stop the Nerval, stop the Fractal, stop the Desires, and then on my turn he sets, or I stop the Servant too, and then on my turn he goes Revolt, I negate, he chains Call By, I also negate, and then we just OTK on the following turn. So felt great to beat Tri-Brigade here the second time around. I would have really loved to have beaten it the first time around, but felt good not losing to the deck again as we take this round 3 victory and head into round 4. So John, how was your first locals in over a year and a half?
Yeah, it was 500 days just about.
So how was your first locals back?
It was so much fun. Everyone out here they were so happy to see me. It felt great to see everyone again, and the place it feels different but the same.
Yeah.
So it's been all this time away. Win X1, which is good. We take those.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, I got the round 1 feature too. So shout out to Winter Kills. And
Hell yeah.
It was a great time being back. So I'm really happy to be back. I'll be back every week now.
And you hate Drytron now?
Yeah, Drytron. Apparently Mubeta Fafnir, I just found out, has a 3rd effect to negate.
Yes,
I thought that he had enough effects, but I guess that's just me. The will of Konami is mysterious sometimes.
Yeah. This man over here just absolutely savage.
Absolutely bodied.
Top 65 on DB, right?
Something around there. No,
This man is cracked, absolutely cracked. Silly Goose Express.
Express ran me over.
Yeah. Alright, so we just finished up round 4, and I got our 2 deck profiles tonight. 2 deck profiles, a really cool Ogdatic Alien deck profile, and then another first place Virtual World deck profile, because that deck's doing really well around here, which is cool to see. And round 4, we played against Tenyi again. I don't know what it is. I keep playing against this deck, but we did win 2-0. And it felt good to take that match because we've had a problem against it in the past. Luckily, the one game when he established the Vanity's Fiend with the Dweller, I had the Diviner and the Orange Light to out it, and that felt really good to be able to at least try to crack that board instead of auto losing to it, because we definitely would have. And then we played Tri-Brigade again round 3 after losing to my friend C. Goody, who's really, really good on that deck. So it felt good to not take another L to Tri-Brigade, although that's a deck that we need to play better against. It's a very hard matchup. Appaloosa is mainly the biggest problem, and then the whole slew of hand traps that they play. I guess that's why Talents is in the main deck, to help punish those hand traps. It's just trying to deal with Appaloosa. Maybe I should main deck Phantasme for that, because that would definitely help. It would have helped against Tenyi too, as weird as that sounds. And I definitely made an error with some side decking today too. Specifically in that round 2 match, I should have put in Dark Ruler just to get rid of that Appaloosa, because the card is so good. But yeah, now we're going to go home and wrap everything up and call it an episode. And just like that, another locals is in the books yet again, and it's week 3 right now. We have 1 week left. 1 week, and I'm getting a little nervous because if I'm being totally honest, this is a deck that I thought a 4-0 would come very, very easy. But here we are, and it's the last week, and I really need to get this 4-0. Like, we have this coming Tuesday, and then we have next Saturday. And if we can't pull off a 4-0 then I just don't know what to say. So I think we just need to get some more testing in. We need to work the side deck a little more. We need to prepare our Tri-Brigade matchup a little more. And like I said in there, I think Phantasme might just go into the main deck. But yeah, I have a splitting headache. I'm starving like usual. Let's go home. Welcome to Wednesday, everybody. Let's go ahead and wrap up this episode really quick. So, I mean, we went 3-1 with the deck, which is great. 2-2 the first week, 3-1, 3-1. We're getting there. Just saving the best for last, obviously. But I am feeling very confident that we should go 3-1 or 4-0 on this coming Saturday in Week 4, without a doubt. But it was a good performance, another 15 store credit in the bag thanks to the Drytron deck. We've earned quite a bit of store credit with this deck. Very, very happy to see that, as expected too. Round 1, we played against the Invoke Shaddoll deck, which admittedly is kind of a hard matchup, not even going to lie, especially because of Winda, but we did get lucky and win the die roll. Game 1 full combo, pretty much no contest there. Game 2, he didn't pull off the best end board, right? I probably could have played through it. Like, that was the only, game that I feel like I maybe, misstepped a little bit. Like, I had the Chaos Ruler, I was trying to play through Droll the best I could, and then I feel like with what I did after that was just kind of, really suboptimal, and I could have played it much better, because, he did not have the best setup that he needed, ultimately. So I feel like I could have taken more advantage of that situation and, maybe even possibly won Game 2. Even though I had to go second, and he had to set Schism and Punishment, which he couldn't use the Schism because his graveyard wasn't set up for it, and then I don't think he wanted to use the Punishment because he wanted to be able to use Shaddoll Fusion next turn. So, I probably could have made better plays, but I just couldn't think of them on the spot. And then Game 3, we got to go first again, open full combo, basically uninterrupted, and then, that's all she wrote. Round 2, as you guys saw, I played against my good friend Colin, who's cracked not only at Yu-Gi-Oh! But insane with the Tri-Brigade deck, and, that just brings up a really good point as to what, I was talking about earlier with what the best deck is. It's definitely Tri-Brigade. One card combo, has tons of room for hand traps, and is very, very consistent at, making its first turn board, and then also ensuring that it has follow-up. It's really, really good. Can't even deny it. And we definitely need to not only respect the matchup more, but I think more so tailor our main and side deck to be able to go against it. And not even just the Tri-Brigade strategy itself, just Appaloosa. Appaloosa shreds our strategy, as you guys saw both in rounds 2 and round 3 when we had to play against Tri-Brigade again. The moment he summoned Appaloosa, no surprise, we lost the game pretty much immediately. So that's why going forward, I think I am going to drop the Ashes in the main deck in favor of the Infinite Impermanence. Yes, we do have Triple Tactics talent, but every time I ran into the Appaloosa, that card just decided to not show up in my hand. So, I mean, what are you going to do about it? And sometimes they make the Appa with 2 materials, and you're thinking, oh, you could just run over it with the Gamma, or anything that you summon off of Nova, right? Yeah, you would think so, but then they just revolt that monster and banish it with the Omen, and then you're out of battle phase, and you lose a Drytron to Omen, which is really, really suboptimal. I mean, I probably could have won Game 2, I think, if I had Access Code Talker, as somebody pointed out in the comments of that feature match. I really wish I still had my Access Code Talker. I sold it months ago before it ever went up in price. And this is why I always say, don't sell your cards unless you absolutely need to, because you'll be in a situation where I am, where you're like, reprint? Where's the no reprint? Okay, well, I guess I'll play the second best card I can. In this case, Boral Sword. So, it is what it is. Yeah, we could have definitely won that one there with Access Code, but I'm not going to get too upset about it. It is what it is. The other thing I want to talk about going forward is something that's happened so far in the 4th and final week with Drytron, is there's been a great increase of virtual world players at our locals. Now, it's not that hard of a matchup in comparison to the Tri-Brigade deck, but it is still a deck that we need to respect quite a bit, because it is very well represented at our locals. I think there was like 4 VW players on the small Tuesday locals, and there might even be more on the Saturday locals. So, and I'll tell you guys how that Tuesday locals went in the next episode. So stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss it. Was pretty good. But yeah, we need to respect Tri Brigade more. Again, I'm already altering the side and main. I might even side Ghost Mourner, because Ghost Mourner is great against Tri Brigade for stopping the Shurig, especially if you can already out the Appaloosa. I think Ghost Mourner is kind of underrated, to be honest. Really solid card, stopping the Shurig when it comes out. Just target, negate it, because you can break the chain block with the targeting effect of Mourner. So yeah, 2 things, Virtual World and Tri Brigade. That's it. Everything else really isn't too big of an issue, and if any of the deck we lose to is going to be an extremely bad matchup like that Tenyi match we had a while ago, or it's like unfortunate break. The deck is consistent. I really love it the way it's playing right now. Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon is MVP. I love it. Might side the Quadrantids in the side a little later on. I'm not sure. I do like the thought of it right now just for more back row hate. But Imperms are definitely going in the main. And I think that's about it. Maybe put Contact C back in the side deck. I'm not sure, but we definitely need to make sure we can out Appaloosa. So Imperm, Talents in the main deck, all that good stuff. And that is going to wrap it up for this episode of One Deck, One Month with Drytron. If you want to see more of my content, click on one of the videos popping up on the bottom of the screen right now. And I'll see you guys next week for the epic conclusion of this One Deck, One Month with Drytron. And like always, a huge thanks goes to all the Divine Level channel members who go above and beyond to support me in what I do, and they are Cadillacs84, Pony Stark, and Keith Sidgers. Thank you guys so much, as always.